Jeroen, what's up, man?
Alive, you know.
It's
Alive and rusty.
alive and rusty.
Alive and kicking.
Yeah, I mean, alive and running, actually, because you have like hundreds of kilometers under your belt of running, which is, when I heard it for the first time, I was fascinated, so I had to ask you about it. Running from here to Berlin.
Yeah, that was the longest trip I did. Yeah, it got out of hand, you know. It really escalated with me getting a little belly and getting a bit older and all that stuff. I used to run as a teenager a little bit, you know, doing sports and nothing too serious, but just to stay active as a teenager or whatever. And then at a certain time I just quit it, started drinking, doing stupid stuff, as things go when you become 20, 25, 30. And then at a certain time, I just stumbled into doing sports again, you know, like wanting to become a little bit more fit. So I started climbing a little bit. I was climbing. First, I lived a couple of years in Paris and I was climbing buildings there. And then after I came back, I climbed trees in the Netherlands. And then I thought, well, maybe it's good to try to do this more safe. So I started doing some top rope climbing course, like in this kind of sports hall climbing things. And and as part of that also it was to gather a kind of a basic fitness. So I started to do some jogging. And my brother actually invited me to do this. He was an active sporting guy. And so every time when I was near him, he would pick me up and we would do a running like every 2 weeks or so. And then he said, okay, I inscribed you in a small sports event and it's 15 kilometers. And friends of his organized it and I was like, okay. And
15 kilometers?
15 kilometers, which was really long, or 12 or so, but it's like about 1 hour of running. I was like, 1 hour, that's really long, you know, like, poor. So it was before the summer holidays, so I decided to train in the summer holidays to prepare myself for running, to be able to run for 1 hour. So and then we did this event like in September. I managed to finish, and but then I was like, okay, now what? You know, to just quit my running routine would be a pity. So then I decided to go for the half marathon, and so I inscribed in some fun run, and so half a year later I ran half a marathon, and I was like, okay, now I did this. Wow, that's great. And so what's next? You know, and so then I thought, well, I live in Rotterdam. There's the Rotterdam Marathon passing by my studio all the time. What the hell? Let's go for the Rotterdam Marathon. So I inscribed myself.
How old were you back then?
That's like, I think like big 10, 15 years ago.
Okay.
So I was in my 40s. I'm now 58 already. So, but still running. But so then I started to train for the marathon, which is, you need to do this really serious. Like you need to run every week, at least 3 times a week, and then start to stretch the distances to be able to run at least 30. And so by the time that you run the marathon, the 30 is the baseline, and then you can run another 10K extra. And so I managed to do this. I managed to survive it, and I was very happy with being able to do that and push my body into this. And also at the same time, creating a routine that was not very an everyday habit for me normally. You know, I'm very unorganized, very chaotic. I'm an artist. I'm able to create my own kind of schedules. So and then the sporting became also kind of a more disciplined structure through this chaos. And so then I did this marathon, and then a couple of weeks after I went to the summer holidays in France, and I got lost while running, and I came back around 50 kilometers later.
Wow.
And it took me about 6 or 7 hours, and I managed to get some water in some villages and stuff. But I was like, wow, I was completely surprised that it was possible to actually run longer than a marathon. I didn't know that was physically possible. So I started Googling, and then this whole box of Pandora opened of all this, the world of ultra running.
Yeah.
The people were running 50K, 60K, 100K from west to east, Australia, whatever, weird shit, you know? And I was completely...
Were you checking also Cameron Haynes and all these people like David Goggins and...
No, not really.
Not really? Okay.
No, it was like just random stuff that I just gathered, YouTube films and small clips. And at the same time, in this process, also like towards the marathon, I got a lot of different injuries because of the eagerness. You go too fast. You don't have normal, no running techniques that are really good for your body. So...
recovery time, all that stuff.
All this kind of stuff. So you overload your system, so you need to recover from it before you actually can pick it up again. So I went through a couple of learning curves in that, and and then in that process also discovered this kind of this ultra running discipline, which had a different approach, less professional sports like and more. More radical in the sense of like it was more absurdistic. It doesn't matter what you eat when you're doing ultra running, for example, at least in the bubble that I was in. And you just need to be super stubborn. So you don't need to be super athletic. You just need to be super stubborn. You don't need to have the perfect shoes. You can just run on wooden shoes or flip-flops or Crocs or whatever, as long as you're stubborn.
So it's a question of willpower, basically.
Exactly. So in that process, like I learned, kind of how to focus my mental focus point, and and that was a very interesting thing that came out of that running. That it was not only about discipline and sports routine or this kind of stuff, but that it was more like it became more like a mental game, and.
Can I ask something? Like,
sure.
Was there also preparation outside of the running that you were doing, or was it just like, okay, during the running itself, you realized like this is just me needing to plow through all of this, or was it like insights that came later to you?
Well, it's a dynamic process, you know. Like, as an artist, I was doing other stuff as well, but because the running started to took so much time in my weekly time schedule that I needed to implement it in my practice. So besides doing kind of graffiti-based works or different kind of interventions that I did in public space, I decided to add the performative component of running into my practice, let's say.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to get to that with you. Yeah, but
so when I started to discover this ultra running distances, I popped up on a website that talked about a 100K race, and it was called de zwaarste van Limburg, like the most heavy from Limburg, and it was like the oldest ultra run of the Netherlands. And it was organized by a couple that did that already for like 15 years or 20 years or whatever. And it was a massive run. Like you run from Sittard all the way down to the Drielandenpunt. And then a little bit you touch Maastricht almost. And then you go up again, like zigzagging over the Dutch Ardennes, let's say. Yeah. And so it was pretty hilly. And for me, it was like, that was the point that I decided to really implement it in my practice. Like when I realized that it was 100K, for me that was such a weird abstractness. It's like the black painting of the black square of Malevich, you know? Like that you realize like what the potential is of abstract. You know, it was like for me, it was a real new thing. Like, wow, 100 kilometers, you can actually run this. And that the distance is transferred by physical attempt. You know, it sounds like a corny, stupid thing, but for me it was like really like a physical awareness, let's say, of what distance means, what time means. And I thought it was great. Like you do this kind of fun runs, and you're surrounded with 50 or 100 other people that are doing this as a kind of a sport event hobby. And for me, it was like, actually, I'm gonna do this 100K race from a like an artistic professional point of view. So I'm the only professional in that setting. Only nobody knows, nobody cares. And so I thought, okay, how can I then squeeze this into my practice that it makes sense without destroying the essence of it, and at the same time not bothering other people with it. So what I did, like a lot of runners, they run with this kind of, you know, sporting logos, or and I decided to make my own shirt. And I approached different art spaces that I work with normally, like different museums or galleries or other project spaces that know my work and know my kind of practice. And I invited them if they could kind of sponsor me by donating their logos. So I got a shirt with like 10 or 15 logos on it. And they kind of represented the context that I was in while running. So I went to Limburg on the starting line with my shirt, surrounded by other people, and nobody really knew. You know, along the way you talk with each other, and then we talked about these kind of things, you know, and that I was an artist, and this was a kind of an artistic experiment for me, let's say. And so this is how it kind of started, you know, like that it became a thing to go from A to Z, and that the distance was. Like bridging this distance was the artistic effort, let's say. And a friend of mine, he did long distance biking, and he was a photographer, and he offered to accompany me. And with his bicycle, I said, okay, it's cool, great, you know, because then he can support me with his, you know, with some food in the backpack or whatever. And I told him, okay, there's only one thing. When I finish the finish line, you have to take a portrait of me, so that there's a actual proof, like that I did it with my shirt and tired as I am, etc. And he did that, and that's the only thing that actually really remained from that thing, and just a weird story. And the actual run was about 110 kilometers. So it was a bit longer because you miss a crossing or you need to go back or whatever. So it was like 10% extra. And that was kind of like the beginning of it, you know. Then the lid was off the box. And I think maybe 2 months later, I was completely destroyed. And it took me like 3 weeks or something like that to recover, also mentally. And then 3 weeks, like just after that period, or like a month later, my gallerist from Brussels called, and I had a small show there, and he asked me if I wanted to do a kind of a talk for the closing of the gallery show. And I was like, yeah, okay, great. I'm gonna do this. You know, it's a public moment to gather people to get some attention to the gallery, and so then I was Googling Rotterdam, my studio in Rotterdam, to the gallery, like the distance where I actually show my work. And the distance was 110 kilometers, more or less.
Oh, so you've done it already.
I thought, wow, I did this already. So I called him back. I said, okay, I can just come running, you know. And then when we time it in such a way that I arrive at 7 o'clock, and then people are there at 7 o'clock, and then I just start talking, and I make up on the way. I'm going to make up what I'm going to talk about, you know. So he said, well, okay, it's a great, stupid idea. Let's do that. And
you reach, it's like an ambulance waiting for you to just drop.
I had no idea what I was thinking, but I asked this friend, the long distance biker, if he could join me. He said, yeah, great. But then by the time the moment was there, he canceled because he had another project and of himself. So I was on a party, and I was like, damn, next week it's this ride or this run, and then I bumped into a guy that I didn't know, Spanish guy, and he just moved to Rotterdam and smoking a joint, and we were drinking beers, having a good time, and I just explained, like, and I have this project next week, and he said, I'm gonna join you. Okay, cool. So
Stoner talk. I
and
love
then
it.
2 days later, or like a day later, his girlfriend came to me and said, yeah, because I know her. And she said, wow, it's a really bad idea because he doesn't really know how to bike, you know. He takes my bicycle sometimes to the market, but it's like, you know, he's not very, he never biked longer than like half an hour to the market, you know.
Wow.
And I said, okay, yeah, it's like 110K. It's about like, I don't know, like
He'll
10
learn.
hours, you know.
He'll learn.
It's like a 10-hour run or maybe 15 hours run, you know. And so I talked about it with him and said, no, I can do it. If you can run it, I can bike it. I said, okay, perfect, you know. And which was really marvelous. And then, and also another friend of mine, he approached me. He wanted to do a little film. So that was kind of like the pretext as well at the same time. I thought, okay, I can stitch the documentary that he wanted to make about how I do a thing. And then the gallery thing, I stitched it all together. And I thought, wow, it's a great excuse to just try to see if this is doable.
So the opening of the gallery was at 7, so you had to leave at like 9.
Yeah, I left at 12 o'clock at night in Rotterdam, and so at 6 o'clock in the evening, my gallerist calls like, so hey, how is it going? And where are you? I said,
The day after, you mean?
No, during the run, during the run. So at 12 o'clock I leave at night. I did a whole report on Facebook. You know, I make pictures on the way, and people could comment and stuff like that as it goes. And I in advance also I had also a shirt with names on it. People could donate €5. So there's like, I don't know, 20, 30 names on my shirt of the people that donated €5. And for me, it was like not for money, because I didn't care about the money really, because it's like whatever, €200 or something. But it was more like, if I have this shirt with the names on it, they check my Facebook. So I'm a big failure if I stop halfway, because I know at least they are all checking it. So I felt
I created that's like ghetto Formula 1 a bit.
Yeah, social pressure, you know, self-infliction, you know. So I started. So I ran like at 12 o'clock, and then so the gallery called like at 6. Like, okay, so where are you now? I said, I'm almost in Antwerp. In Antwerp, that's like, you know, it's like by car it's another like 3/4 from Brussels. So I was like, okay. So yeah, but I go super fast now, which I didn't completely, but I was completely destroyed. Because like 12 o'clock, and it was already like 6 in the evening.
Yeah.
So I already had my portion, and in the end, I managed to arrive in Brussels in front of the gallery at 12 o'clock at night. So I ran exactly 24 hours.
24 hours.
Without stopping and
no stopping.
Yeah, just to have a little soup, or you know, like the guy that filmed me, his girlfriend joined with a car, and I sent her out to get some stuff and to get some bread and some soup and so she was driving to restaurants, whatever what was open to.
What was going on in your mind, man?
Well, it's you know, if you are into what is fascinating with running is that it's different than walking or biking. It's like you are the rhythm of the running and the breathing is really like a dictate. You know, you cannot think around the breathing rhythm. So the thoughts are very small. So it's like it's a very intense form of meditation, really. You know, and so you think about things, but not too long. You cannot think for this 24 hours. You cannot think about making a new film or writing a book or whatever. You know, it's just glitch, because also you're super confronted with the damage control of your body.
Yeah.
If is there an injury that is serious, you know, your body screams with self-pity. Your mind is crying like, oh, please stop. All the self-pity bullshit. And you need to kind of control this. You know, I give this example sometimes, how I see it myself, as if I'm like, you know, this whole thing is one big ship, and then there's the personnel in the belly of the ship, and they're scheming this mutiny, and then there's the steering man, and then there's the captain, and then there's the raider, you know, in the harbor. And so there's all this kind of layers of people that want to sabotage, and then there's a storm, and then you end up in the harbor, and the harbor, they don't want you, whatever. But you need to keep going, you know, and you need to keep the machine going. You cannot just listen to the cracks in the hull of the ship. You cannot listen to the complaining of the
Yeah, it's a
the
beautiful
guy
metaphor.
cooking or whatever. You know, you need to keep the project going. And all the stories, they are like all the stories that try to sabotage that project. They come from different angles, you know, about the body, about the mind, about like the urgency, the self-pity, why you do this, the kind of the motivations, like all the stories pass by. And that's, I think that's really fascinating, you know. And
Well, it sounds like a real odyssey that you went through, like with yourself.
yeah, but it's at the same time, it's also very short-lived, short thought. You know, it's moments that you need to suppress because you need to keep going. So you cannot stay too long in the reflection about this, how to deal with self-pity or whatever. You just need to keep going.
I can imagine also that you're getting the other side of the spectrum, like complete euphoria, happiness.
Well, I read about it. You know,
You read
but
about it.
I don't have this runner's high. I didn't experience this luxury of like the pleasure of running.
No, not the
not for me.
endorphins,
Not
no?
for me. No, I wished, but no, really.
Just suffering, self-pity, and
Yeah,
suppressing.
stupidity, and like why am I doing this? I don't know. Yeah, it's like in the end, like as an artist, I think because it's a fucking great idea. You know, like you come up with your ideas in your studio and you show it in a gallery, and the artwork is the distance you run between those positions. I think it's super pure, you know, and that you show or that you know, the irony was like, I planned to be in Brussels at 6, so some people showed up. For also people came from the Netherlands to you know, to welcome me and everything, but I didn't show up. So the gallery was like, oh fuck, you know. So when are you here? I said, yeah, I'm gonna try to see if I'm there in 1 hour. You know, I just made up something, and so okay, so 7, okay, so 8 o'clock. Oh, okay, so who wants another wine? You know, so the gallerist was like really generous, offering another wine and another one. So by the time I arrived at 12 o'clock, everybody was piss drunk, and I was imploding from the physical effort that I did. So the contrast was enormous, and at the same time, they were the witness of the dissolvement of artwork, because they thought, okay, I arrive and that's a performance. But in fact, the performance was until the point I would see them, because then it stopped because I arrived, you know, because it was about the distance in between those positions. So there was a super nice.
Wow, that's conceptually very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, like a weird. It was an anti-work. You know? And I really loved that idea. Also, there was like, yeah.
And then, did you have to talk?
Yeah, but you know what is interesting, if you are putting your body in real serious condition, you know, there's a lot of chemicals that keep you in place and to keep you hyper focused. I still, until today, and this is like 2013 or 14, I think.
Wow.
I still remember all the pavement and all the instabilities of things, and you know, all the different. It's really weird, like how this, you know, like you have a hyper focus, so that you don't stumble over things, etc. And you just check like how your body is functioning, and all the possible dangers of like the traffic and whatnot. And so by the time I arrived, it's another half an hour, maybe 40 minutes, for your body turning into another state of pause, and that the, you know, the chemicals are getting down and replaced by other stuff, so that the body then starts to deal with the actual damage that you created on it. So, and then after like half an hour, so I start to shake and everything, and then I was like, okay, now before I get into a shock or something, now it's the moment that I go to my hotel. It's finished now, fun is over. But yeah, so it was like 3/4 of an hour I was there, and then it was the fun was over. So
and then, okay, so that kind of jump started something that would turn into a whole practice for you, like an art form in that
I
sense.
thought this was it, you know. I did the 100K, which was like an abstract thing. I did that gesture, like okay, running as a, you know, as a you throw something in the air and it's gone. It's just a gesture of 100K and you run it. And then in this case, the Brussels thing, like about the distance between an, you know, like where you come up with an idea and where you manifestate it, and then the space in between. And it took 24 hours by coincidence, which is also a really beautiful number.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, that's it, you know. And in fact, the 110K wasn't 110, but it was about 140 kilometers. Again, like another...
Because you got lost?
I got lost. I missed the crossing. One bridge that I had to cross wasn't there, whatever, you know. So there was... There's always a little bit more. And some street renovation or whatever. And... so I was like, wow, 140K, Jesus, that's a long run. Okay, but then I was like, okay, I needed to recover, and it took another like 3 weeks or something like that before I slowly start jogging again a little bit. And then a friend of mine, a curator from Berlin, called if I wanted to be part of a remake of another exhibition that we did 10 years before in Berlin. And he said, okay, like it was a graffiti show, and there one of the things that I did, I just sprayed one line in the corridor of the art space, and it was like a super long corridor. It's in Betanian House in Kreuzberg, and it was a show that in the exhibition before, the whole place got completely vandalized, graffiti tags on the ceiling, everything got destroyed. It was like a big explosion of energy from all the participants and all the visitors. There were like 1,000 people on the opening. It was like really marvelous. But for some reason, just a week for the opening of that show 10 years before, they painted the whole corridor white again. So I said, wow, that's a stupid idea. So what I did was I sprayed one big line, a pointless one-liner I called it, kind of to break the ice, because it's going to be the same participants and the same audience also.
And they're going to trash it anyway.
Yeah, they're going to celebrate again the fact that we are all graffiti writers and that it's part of, you know, expressing our sociality, let's say.
Yeah.
And our relationship with being independent in relation to architecture, whatever, you know. And it was like, you cannot just suppress that in a graffiti show. That's really stupid. So I broke the ice, and so the line became that thing. So, and when he called me, he asked me if I wanted to do a kind of a remake from that show. And so related to that work that I showed in that time. And at the same time that he wanted to show the things that I'm doing now. That all the artists that participated, whatever, the Banksy, Shepard Fairey, all these people, like in 10 years, it really, like their practice has changed. And so he wanted to show that that evolution as well. So I said, okay, I need to think about it. I dropped the phone and was like, yeah, what am I doing? I'm running now. So I start Googling the distance between
700.
Rotterdam and Betanian House. It was 680 kilometers. I was like, oh, that's impossible, you know. That's like, I run 100, 110, 140.
Well,
680 is like impossible.
But this is the evolution, exactly, right?
I guess. So I called him back straight. I thought, okay, I need to call him back straight away because I make up my mind and realize how stupid it is. And I said, okay.
You told him You told him yes before you checked the distance.
Yeah, and then I called him. So okay, it's going to be a long ride. I have no idea how to solve this puzzle, but I come to run. And the running will be my contribution. And so I said, okay, I have no idea what this is about, but sounds great. Go do your thing, you know. And he had a little bit of budget, and it was still like, I think half a year of preparation time. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna see if I can get some money here and there, because I realized like, yeah, you cannot do this overnight. You know,
No, of course
running
not. Not with the car even.
Yeah, almost. Well, by car, it takes you like 7 hours.
Yeah. Oh well.
To Berlin from here.
That's me. Being
That's
a
doable. Or
stupid
8 hours.
Podcaster, yeah.
But running, I was like, I had no idea, and so then I realized it had to be like about a 2-week running project.
Wow.
So you run every day about between 55 and 65 kilometers, and then as a kind of a relay run, you manage to arrive at the right time. So, and then I just...
How long does it take between 55 and 60? In the speed that you were doing, how long does it
Well,
take per day?
what I did in this run to Berlin, I woke up at 6 in the morning eating, and then at 8 I start to run until 8 o'clock at night. So it was a 12-hour project, but in this 12 hours I had a couple of breaks, and I had a lunch break, and I slept for 1 hour and to recover, etc. Because it's different than if you run like for 1 day or for 24 hours or even 36 hours. You can overload your system, and you just take all the energy that you have, and that's it. And then you hope to recover again.
And then you're completely wiped out the next day.
Exactly. But in this case, it was not possible because, the next day I need to run the same distance and again and again and again and again. So it was really like an interesting process to study like how people do this, because I read about this extreme long distance runnings that people did from the east to the west coast of the US or whatever, through Patagonia, whatever crazy shit. And and then I got in touch with a trainer that trained some long distance runners as well. He created a schedule for me how to perceive this whole thing.
How do you prepare, like, in terms of the distances to that? Do you build up to the 60?
Yeah, you just build up. It's like for me, like starting to run 15K and then doing the marathon, you just stretch it up all the time. And then along the way, you try to discover how to deal with the stuff that you encounter, and you just recalibrate along the way. And
so did you get to a point that, like, for you running 60 kilometers, between 55 and 60 kilometers was just a regular thing? Did you build up towards that?
No, not really. No, that's impossible. The thing was like the longest distance I run, I think, in preparation to that project was like maybe 50 kilometers, or maybe 2 times like I run like in 1 day, maybe 2 times 40 kilometers or something. You know, like 40 in the morning, or like 30 in the morning, and then 40 in the evening, something like that, you know.
But it's still like 12 hours, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And or you run like for 10 hours or something, but then you need to recover. And in the training, you run the next day again, and then you run like 4 or 5 days a week. So it became like, for me, the preparation became like a full-time job. Like I was running 40, 50 hours a week. So that was like, you know, so also in that sense, it needed to be part of my practice, because I don't have time left for other stuff. Yeah. So, and to do this also, like, just a friend with a bicycle, with some bags, with some buns and a bottle of Coca-Cola would not do. So I needed to have a proper team that helped me to guide me along this 2-week project. So I rented a camping car, and I had 3 friends that were actually artists, but also had a sporting background. So I was thinking, at least then they could kind of relate to, like, if they see me suffer, that it's part of the game, and not like, oh yeah, maybe you should take the camping car and whatever. So that they wouldn't play the advocate of the devil, but really supporting me in my stupidity.
Yeah. Just one second, sorry. Jean, can I ask you for a cup of coffee, if possible? Because that's the 4th one today, so I'm like...
And me too.
Yeah. If possible, thanks. So, because, you know, what's so interesting to me is, you say it became a part of your practice, so you had to be subsidized for that, right? I guess. Because, I mean, you can't clock in...
Well, the thing in my practice is, like, I have some grants sometimes. I have a side job, and a third of this element is like the income from my art, like sales or whatever. So it's not that everything needs to come out of one thing. You know, like I work for art spaces, building shows, like as an art handler and a constructor or whatever.
No, but I'm saying, if you need to be like literally running between 50 to 60 kilometers a day just in preparation, or 30 to 50, like you say, you need, let's say, hours. You need to To run 40 hours a week, 40 to 50 hours a week.
Yeah, it's like
how do you
I prepared. I had savings, and I had I managed to get like a subsidy also. Like in Rotterdam, there's kind of a art grant for weird projects or experimental projects. So I applied for that also, and I got money for that, and so I was able to pay the team a little bit, rent a camping car, and I think also even get a little bit of budget for myself, like a kind of little fee.
Yeah.
And but it was kind of symbolic, and I think also like the art space also paid something, but also the same. They gave me like €1,000 or something, so it was enough for but not like it. And I think I did this.
It's quite amazing that it became like the piece, the running.
Yeah, what I thought was really cool is like the like with the first run, like the 100K run, it was like the institutes that I approached. Oh, great, man.
Oh,
Thanks.
thank you so much, brother. Yes.
The art spaces that I approached, like the Boijmans Museum, the Apple, Witte de Wit, which is now Melly, Tent. They're really good high-end art spaces. Like my galleries in Brussels and Amsterdam. They are like really serious places, and it helped me to create a context that also their audience, let's say, took this effort serious.
Yeah.
So it helped me also to feel supported in that it's not just a weird offspring of my practice, but that it was a natural line in it. So it didn't cost me too much energy to transfer this to an audience, let's say. But at the same time, like 99% of the things that I do in my art practice don't generate any income. I get money from subsidies and my side jobs, you know, and sometimes I sell something, but it's not like a serious thing.
Yeah, it's not like the sustainable thing you can like...
No, it's not like I don't make paintings or photographs that I sell or something, you know. Like in this case with the running project, there was nothing left from it. And
well, the piece itself, I mean, you documented it, right?
Well, in the end, for now, for the Berlin project, I decided, like, when I did the project with the Brussels thing before, this friend of mine approached me that he wanted to do a kind of an interview or film me while I was doing an artwork.
Yeah.
So then I stitched him to this Brussels project, and he made a small documentary about this, like a 10-minute documentary, but it was his project. I told him, okay, it's your thing, your film, your choices, you do it, edit, whatever, that's it. And I'm just the topic or the target or whatever. And in this case, I was running to a show that would last like 1 month or 6 weeks or something. Yeah. So something had to be there in the show. So then I thought it would be nice to have a video, like a kind of a super boring road video that was on during the exhibition from starting time until finishing time. So like at 11 o'clock they opened the show until 5 o'clock in the evening, or like in the late afternoon. So it would take like whatever 7 hours, 8 hours. So the video had to be a 7 or 8 hour film that was playing all the time. So at 11 o'clock when they start the video, I would leave my studio in Rotterdam, and at the end of the day I would arrive at Betanienhaus at the art space. And yeah, and to do this I needed to ask someone that could really seriously do this.
Yeah.
So
like film, edit the whole thing.
Film and edit, and this is where Joao comes in. So I got his contact through a friend, and said, okay, really, like, he works with my father and he's fucking amazing and all the time, da 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 da. So, and then we met, and it was like, yeah, I was...
Oh, through Abner.
Through Abner.
Yeah.
And through Abner's dad, Abner's dad is whenever he filmed here, he was always checking in with Joao, and so this was how I got through Abner in contact with Joao, and and we sit together, and I said, okay, I don't have really no serious money, no nothing, and it's a ridiculous project. And he said, yeah, sounds great, let's do it, So it was like, oh man. So it was
That's
really
Joao,
insane.
Yeah. It's
But it was
Joao.
like, I think he also didn't realize what it was. It was like, it was a 13 days, it was 14 days from leaving to the opening. And my trainer, he said, okay, you need to have a 1 day off halfway, or else you're not going to be able to do it. Your body is going to be under so much pressure, and also mentally, you need to have a day off to be able to break the thing in half, and then to restart, rebuild again. And so we did this. So it was a 13-day effort. It was the plan. And and then we just filmed every day, and I said to Joao, okay, just film me while I'm running, like super boring. Like you guys drive with the camping car ahead on a bridge, you film me while I'm running towards you for half an hour, and then you turn around, and then I run under the bridge, and you film me another half hour, whatever. And that a couple of times a day, and in the end, you just trim it down to whatever, like half an hour every day, and then you stitch it together. You end up like 6, 7, 8, 9 hours, and you sort it out. And well, this is kind of the thing, For me, it was like, I just needed to focus on my running and to be alive. So I couldn't think about being director or actor or whatever. I just needed to run. So there was this team that needed to create a kind of a vacuum around me, and not bother Joao in the process of filming. So it was a really interesting kind of dynamic that was created, and nobody oversaw, because also for the other 3 guys it was really a challenge, like how it is to be, because I was running the whole day outside. I had a great time, except for my body suffering, but I was outdoor, beautiful weather. And they got stuck in a camping car for like 2 weeks, like 4 guys, like on a, I don't know, like 4 square meters or something. Like, oh, the suffering. It was really hilarious.
Should have done another camper that does a film about the camper.
I asked one guy to make actual kind of a short reportage about them waiting for me the whole day.
Yeah.
Like, where is he? Yeah, okay, he's coming. Okay. And then waiting for another half hour. And then someone takes the camping chair, and then, preparing a little table with the food. And then I came, and then I was sitting there, and they were like, okay. And they had to be so patient, It was like really...
Which kind of demons did you have in your head, like every single morning?
Well...
I can just imagine.
I realized, like, the people that are doing ultra running, they always run from something, So
no, it's like
but I promise not to talk about relations and all that, Yeah.
No, I'm asking because it's like you get up in the morning, it's like, okay, I have fucking 60 kilometers in
let's
front
do
of
it.
me. Let's do it, because then, but before that, what did you have moments of like you have to suppress a voice that is like...
Once you step in that boat, the boat is going. You cannot get out. You can, but then you surrender. You give up.
Yeah.
And that was not an option.
Yeah.
I created so much incentives that I with the people that were following me and donating some money. I asked for a subsidy, and I got the grant.
Yeah. So there was like a higher calling, basically.
There was like the exhibition space. It was going to be a great show, because the other 3 shows that were in advance, or 4, I don't know, they were really spectacular shows in Berlin, and that defined really this whole going from graffiti into what later became street art, and evolved into this really mature art discipline. That it is now this urban intervention culture, and artists and graffiti writers merging, and it's a real different thing now. And it had a lot to do with the back jumps exhibitions in Berlin, and so it was really great to be part of that. So I had to go there, you know. And then I had the energy in the team was really great also. So it was also like all the little picket points, you know, all the little sticks around were in a perfect alignment. So if I wouldn't succeed, it was just because of me, because you know, the people in the belly of the ship or in the brain or they won, and not my urge to do it.
Yeah.
So I had to continue. And it was, what was interesting, what I realized is that you cannot train for that. Because I was training like for months in preparing myself, my body, running, eating healthy, all that stuff. But then I started running that first day, which was like 55, 60K from Rotterdam to Utrecht. And then the next day, straight waking up and then preparing myself, and then I'm going for another 12 hours of, like 10 hours of running to Apeldoorn, which was the place of my parents. And I was destroyed. And then the third day I had to wake up and then do the running again. And I was like, oh, fuck, like muscle pain. And I started to get some blisters. And I was like, oh. And then I had to run to Oldenzaal, which is on the border of the Netherlands. So I went there, and then we stayed at a friend's place because I did art school there in that area. And which was great, and you know, generous dinner, and like the whole vibe was fantastic. But then the next morning I was like, oh fuck, I need to do this another, like the fourth day. But then you create all the time like some excuses, like, but at least if I run now, I run in 3 days and a little bit more through the whole Netherlands, you know, from the west to the east completely. It's like, wow, this is amazing. It's like this awareness, like the 100K run, like that you are aware of what distance means. And I was like, wow, you know, can you imagine if you just continue that block 3 times more, 4 times more, and then I'm in Berlin, like, you know, you create all kind of alibis to motivate yourself.
And I think also what is interesting, what you just said, that you understand distances. It's like we're living in this like dichotomy of having vehicles that take us really quick from one point to the other.
Planes, yeah.
And we don't understand actually how long does it take.
Yeah.
We don't understand, like, now, think about it. It's in the last 150 years, maybe, that on land we can travel so fast, and it becomes faster and faster. People used to walk all these distances. And that's why communities stayed actually smaller in that sense. But you, on your body, actually, you felt it. Really on your bones, you felt what it means to go
and I was running,
the Netherlands to Berlin.
Yeah, and I was running like this. It's quite a straight line because I wanted to make it straight as possible, because then it partly related to this pointless one-liner line. But at the same time, it was the most efficient, you know, distance. And but I was running along a lot of roads that had the same name. It was called the Old Postway. So like the old mailway, you know, like the Alte Postweg. And it was like the main route from ancient times already for 1,000 years, that people brought their mail from the east to the west, from village to village. And while running this, you're aware that these roads you're running are actually used on foot and by donkey and charred for thousands of years. And that was really beautiful to be part of that, like to be aware of that infrastructure, you know, like in a different way than how we perceive it now. With you get into the tube underground, you pop up somewhere, especially, you know, here but especially when you're like in London or something. I mean, the distances are so vast that you have no idea what is in between. And this was so that space and distance became so physical,
and feeling it in your
mental
feet,
as well,
and your body, your feet, your body, and what you say, like being a part of this history, like historical pathways. And because it's literally like within 24 hours nowadays you can just fly around the world, which will take you literal years if you think about it, to travel across the entire world, if you would have to do it by foot. And then you do this. And how does it feel when you get to Berlin? Like, you have this amazing experience, like beating your demons, your mind, your body. You get to Berlin, you get to the exhibition. How does it feel? It
was super weird because, you know, after like 4 days, I was like, okay, 5 days running. I was like, okay, one more day, and then I have a day off. You know, so you create this point, and then and my body was like, I was hurting, and I was like, you know, I didn't know, like you sleep in the evening in your bed in this camping car, and you cannot sleep because your legs are hurting and burning, and you know, like your body is like trying to figure out a way how to deal with all the pressure and to recover and get all the damage out and whatnot. And so it was really complicated. And then I had this day off. We didn't do anything. It was beautiful weather as well. We were hanging out at the camping and eating crazy, and because that's really great about ultra running also. Like if you do all these crazy distances, you can eat everything.
Yeah, because you burn everything.
You burn it. Hamburgers, Big Macs, whatever, pasta, everything. Throw it in, and yeah, it's, you know, so beers.
Were you drenched in sweat constantly when you were running?
I don't know. Probably.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Yeah, I don't know. But it was warm, so I was running in like a small shirt and stuff. Yeah, probably it was like a wet thing. Yeah, but you drink a lot all the time.
Yeah.
You drink like I don't know.
And then you have like a day of break. You just binge everything. You go back to your routine. But then when you get to the gallery,
yeah. So
was there a feeling of emptiness when it ended? Because it's like,
well, I arrived. I ran into Berlin after, because also like what we didn't realize, like Joao was editing at the end of the evening, like at the end of the day when I arrived, the filming was finished. He started to edit straight away to do the preparation so that it was finished, kind of, at least a part without the finishing, but so that something could be included in the exhibition already. And what we didn't think about, what we forgot about, is that also the material had to render. So that would take another day. So it meant that I needed to pitch up the distances. Like, so the second part of the week, I need to run a little bit further to be able to have this spare day at the end. So instead of running 55, 60K, I need to go to 65K every day. So... but for some reason that was possible. So what was amazing, by the time I arrived in Berlin, I was super fit. I had no muscle pain, no blisters, nothing. I was super chill. Some people were at the entrance of the art space offering me drinks straight away. And I like the curator asked me like before, like, do you want us to be there outside when you are there, like a big event or something? So no, I think it's cool that it's just, I just enter, you know, that this thing is like Kunstraum, like the art space is in the building through that corridor, and then in the back is the art space. I said, no, I just arrive in the art space, you just have your opening, and I arrive at, I don't know, like at 6 or 7 or something, I would be there. And already, Joao put the video up there, so that the audience already saw the video while I was like leaving from Rotterdam, etc. Because only the finish was not there, but we would fix that the next day. And so I went into the art space with my running outfit and everything, super dirty, but nobody believed that I just arrived because I was so fit. And with the drinks and everything, like, hey, how are you? Yeah, I'm doing great.
See like a destroyed person, yeah.
Yeah, like with the Brussels run, like when I, like a year before, 2 years before, like 1.5 years before, when I arrived in Brussels, they saw like the collapse of the system. You know, like after half an hour that I start to shake and everything, and the body went into another state. But in the case of Berlin, after 2 weeks of full-time pressure, the body kind of surrendered and got disciplined. Like all the workers in that ship, they were just like, listening to the captain, and that was like super amazing, because I was only aware after that, like, we had this opening and a party and everything, and I was fit enough,
Wow.
And the next day I could run again, which I didn't. So that was a weird thing. Like, okay, now what I do with this energy,
Interesting. It's so interesting that, like, the first word that comes up to my mind is conditioning.
Yeah.
that you were so conditioned, and also the whole because you prepared for half a year before that, right?
Yeah.
The
Kind of.
logistical part of it, and also the practical part of it, like you said. So you condition yourself to the point that you actually evolved beyond
Yeah.
the mental and physical anguish, right? Because you could run the next day.
Yeah.
You said it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think what was interesting, like I could have run from there the next day. I could have run to Warsaw and to Moscow, whatever. And then after, I realized, like, okay, now you know how this happened from this 40, 50K ultra marathon thing, running the 100K, and then doing the Brussels thing, and then Berlin came out of that. I thought, okay, so there's this curve. What's next? You know, running to Beijing. It's like, it's boring. You know, I did already that. Everything you can discover in this running sphere bubble, I tried this out. Kind of, you know, I dealt with. I managed to neutralize it. I'm a big fan of Bas-Jan Ader. You know, it's like this Dutch artist that is a tragic figure from the 60s, 70s, and he always had a practice of falling and, you know, doing all kinds of clumsy stuff and dealing with the laws and failure and all this stuff. And in the end, he's famous or notorious because he, at one time, he lived in the US, and then he had a show in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, and he left with a super small sailing boat. Everybody was waving him goodbye and, you know, hugging him, and he never arrived because now that you see the photographs, like, wow, it's impossible to go through the ocean across the Atlantic with such a small boat. So there was like the failure was already incorporated for him in that project, and the tragic, like suicide.
Yeah, it's a suicidal mission, basically.
Yeah, and then only afterwards, everybody was like, "Oh my God, we never saw this." You know, that he was like going to that point. And for me, like when I planned this Berlin thing, I thought it was super fascinating to. How would I deal with the breaking point? That it was impossible to do it, you know, or you get a car accident, or you know, someone hits you, or anything could happen. You just stumble and you twist an ankle or something like that, you know, and then so you couldn't reach the deadline of the opening, whatever, you know. So how to deal with this? But it didn't happen. I just arrived. It was a fucking anticlimax.
Yeah, but wasn't it an amazing feeling, like to accomplish that? Maybe that also,
of course.
That positive feedback of your system giving you like, hey, you got there, and then the pain, because did the pain come also and all was the body destroyed or not?
No, it was recovered. I was fit.
So this is really mind over matter.
Yeah. That was really surprising, you know, but
this is an amazing example of mind over matter
on
in
a
that sense.
Personal level. It's fantastic from an artistic point of you know, there was no drama, there was no tragedy,
but there is inspiration.
Yeah, of course.
But that's also you don't have to come completely bruised up and broken, because there is someone
for the
also,
image marvelous. You know?
Yeah, but actually, I think it's a story of triumph.
Yeah,
and a story also, again, like I said before, mind over matter. If you think about it, that if someone hears the story or saw it, I mean, you witnessed it firsthand. It's like you see that, the expectations actually turn out to be very positive instead of it being like we need to carry you on a stretcher and to, you know, take you to the intensive care unit.
No, absolutely. No, that was really intriguing, you know. For me also, it was really like a special thing that came out of it. Like, wow, every you can bend everything in theory, you know. If you are really, I mean, I was lucky, you know, I talked about it after with people that are really into sports and physiologists, whatever. They say, well, you're just lucky with your body, you know, because not everybody can do this. Maybe, but I'm not super talented. I'm not the fastest. I'm not symmetric. I'm a short guy. I have a back problem. I have this, that, all this kind of stuff. It's like, but for some reason I managed to just squeeze through. You know, and managed to push towards. It was also, what was interesting, it was 2015. It was the time where a lot of refugees came from Syria, making the cross to Greece and then into Europe and then walking towards Germany. Yeah. And I was also running through Germany, and I was like, wow, this is it's such a weird. I'm doing this physical effort, like running as a kind of sport, art, whatnot, and then there's other people running similar or walking similar distances with backpacks, children on their back, and on flip flops, and traumatized by the wars they came out and drag along in their minds. I mean, it's like, for me also, what I was doing was like nothing. It's just a parade of decadence.
Did you have that
Yeah,
in your mind?
I had that thought. Yeah,
You
absolutely.
had that thought in your mind, no?
Yeah.
So that's another incentive, actually, to understand the... Right,
Yeah,
because
you're
said...
aware of the context,
Yeah.
Or different contexts that you're running through at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, what you said, a parade of decadence, like you're making an art piece. I'm going to run now from Rotterdam to Berlin.
For what
but,
matter,
But so you could also just, throw in the towel and say, I don't want to do it. And then there are no real consequences beyond, let's say, embarrassment maybe, or that you didn't fulfill what you agreed on. But there is no, like, running for your life.
No, exactly. Yeah, no.
But at the same time, it had a massive amount of urgency to it. That's why you could accomplish it.
Of course it had. Yeah, definitely. I mean, and it is. It had, in a complete different field, as I said, I run from something at the same time, and I try to run towards something, towards a new life or new ideas or something like that. And I run away from, hurt.
Yeah.
And to overcome the situation that I felt myself stuck in, and or prepare myself for the stuff that could happen potentially or whatnot. And it was just a fascinating project, and a lot came out, like in insights as well, and also like what I didn't want to do. In the end, after that I quit running for a long time.
I can imagine that you.
I was like,
you had
what's
some
next?
aversion, to it also.
Yeah, I did. I was, I kept up my condition a little bit, like jogging in the park and whatnot. But I didn't do any distances anymore, and I thought then it was interesting to just not train at all, zero, and then run, like after 1 year, 2 years, just run the Rotterdam Marathon again. So I did, ever since I was running the marathon. Always kind of illegal because I didn't want to pay anymore and not be in the official things, and it was more like a fun thing to climb the fence and run along, but without preparation. So to see if I could just do it on mental behavior or mental strength or whatever, or stubbornness.
Is it something like that is also present with your work, like with your practice, the thing of the mental discipline?
Not beforehand. It came really with the running, and that it became more inward, let's say. And I wanted to keep the running into my practice, kind of, because I was always intrigued also in art history, like land artists doing stuff like walking distances and leaving traces in the landscape, and for me also there was a lot of overlap with my graffiti interests, and kind of breaking into the fabric of the landscape, and in that sense, I was like, like with some of those artists that I thought were really great when they started, like in the 1965, 68, 72, etc. These people, like when they were really young, they made a lot of energetic experimentations that I thought were very inspiring. And after they became older, it changed into a normal professional practice. They started to do big commission works, etc. So for me, it was not the same spark anymore. So I tried to see if I could keep the line between what I was looking for and the inspiration of that energy that these guys had when they were like in their 20s. Like Richard Long, Robert Smithson, Bastian Ader, for example. These kind of people that just experimented with weird, crazy shit. And I not so much of those works were visible, really, because they ended up in private collections that were not so visible anymore. And I thought, well, then maybe I just need to update it, do it myself, to put it back into the spotlight.
Right.
But then through the lens of my own practice, or the lens of my time, let's say. Like Richard Long, he was walking long distances and leaving traces. And I thought, well, let's do the same thing, but then not walking, but running, faster, more 21st century related.
Because you said something, I mean, this is the second time that we're meeting. The first time I got lost, but you were telling about you running and creating shapes within the earth.
Yeah, they came out of that kind of. So I created my own shortcuts, let's say, or my own habit trails, desire lines. And yeah, they because after this long distance in running to Berlin, I was like, yeah, now what? I can do all the distances I wanted.
Yeah,
and
that's true. So
I did this untrained marathons, and I managed to do that, and then recover again. It was like, yeah, that's not it, and that's not to do something around a marathon is a bit boring because everybody's running a marathon, and what I was looking for in the potential of that, it's perceived not in the right form. So I was like looking for, okay, what kind of thing I could do, and then I found this desire lines. I thought it's nice when you think about art in public space that I'm interested in. These shortcuts that people make in parks to just ignore the design of the path by the designer, but they just make their own shortcuts. Olifantenpaadjes, exactly. Everybody is doing that. Yeah. Like not only the young progressive bad boys, but everyone is taking that shortcuts. And I thought
that's actually a direct. If you think about it, it's how humans are affecting nature around them. They're just creating these paths,
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, it's very interesting that I see these shortcuts, but then you realize that people just fall in line. They take the shortcut, and they take the shortcut, and then it becomes a new path, a new road.
Yeah.
Was that also connected to the things you were doing? Like if through repetition you create a new pathway?
What I wanted to do is like kind of pay tribute to that phenomenon. That everybody takes this, like everybody follows the direction of this kind of anarchistic, democratic created path. And I thought, wow, this is what art should be. You know, that it invites people without them knowing that they are guided towards an idea or an habit or a behavior.
So that says a lot about free will in that sense.
Yeah.
If you think about it, because people think like, oh, let me take this shortcut. Oh, someone took that shortcut already. Maybe it's safe for me to take it. I do want to take a shortcut. In reality, you could just go plow through the earth and do whatever you want. But because someone took it already, it gives us a sense of safety.
Absolutely.
So free will is connected to that.
But there's always some people that were the first to create it. Huh?
Exactly.
And that's the kind of the avant-garde, let's say. That's the sacrifice that you then have to do as an artist to create, once you have this idea, to create those paths at the same time. Yeah. So that is what art, in my idea, should do. Bring, reflections of our behavior in different ways and show them how it could be done different, let's say. So once the shortcut is there, it's there, but, it's great to make it. So then in the end, like I did a couple of experimentations with it. And then at the end, I decided just to make a circle, like I just hit a stick in the floor with a little string and I just run my circle. And after,
the string connected to you?
Yeah, I just hold it in my hand. And as long as you keep the line straight under tension, then you have the perfect circle after. If you run it like for half an hour, you already have a basic trace, and then you can just trace the string, and you can just keep that path. And then you run it for another hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, 20, depending on the surface and what you want to make as a drawing, let's say. And this was what I kind of did after, so it was not to invite other people to walk my path, but just to, kind of the tribute to that desire line was the starting point, and it became more about the manifestation itself. Like I filmed it with a drone after, but first in other ways. but it was more like a manifestation of commitment, or of concentration, or suffer, whatever how you wanted to read it.
Right.
You know, like that you need to focus for 2-3 hours on that same track, and it's not, you know, some of those circles were really short, and so it was like really about like damage control of the body, like you had to strain on the ankles and the knees, and every time the same corner. And if they were bigger, it's more like, you know, just to keep the concentration, because if you start to meander around the path, it becomes more blurry. So you needed to try to focus for a certain amount of time. And this became an interesting kind of element into the documentation that I started to make, like the films that came out of that. So and this is what I did like for the last. I think I started to do this more serious in COVID, like in the lockdown period. Also because the outdoors were closed off for a lot of people, so I just climbed fences and I just claimed it. And I had a whole range of variations of urban spaces to my availability.
For experimentation and actually like workshop your ideas in that sense, right? That's how you looked at it, or?
No, for me it was like a kind of search into how do I relate to my surrounding, you know, and how can I claim that space, like as a graffiti writer, let's say, like I want to leave a trace, and how is this trace if I make a circle in a grass field, or if I do it on a roof of a factory, or if I do it in a yard of some other place, or on the beach, or whatever, in a designed garden or something like that. What is the effect, you know? How do people read it in other ways? And always some coincidence slips in if you're lucky, and then it becomes like an interesting kind of story, you know, in themselves. So and then I did really a lot of these kind of films. So I bought a drone, because before I need to hire someone, and then it became more complicated. So I bought a drone. It was available at the time for the first time, you know, for normal consumers to buy a thing like that. Yeah, and I could just play with it full time. Like every day I was running my circles. It was marvelous. I did that for like 3 years.
Wow.
In a row. Yeah. And it generated a lot of insight also. And then after...
And were you releasing a lot of content also connected to that? Like online, or where was it going?
No, not really. I showed it to a couple of people, and then I got just invited to do a show, like Joep van Lieshout in Rotterdam. He has this art space, Brutus. It was called different in that time, but he invited me to do a big show there. And then I showed like, I don't know, maybe like 15 of those videos. And I made a kind of installation with it in this really rundown old factory place. So it was really like this. It overlapped also my urban exploration kind of interest, and it got people into that language. And then from that perspective, looking at this circle videos. So that was really interesting, and it worked pretty well. Everything got sold, and because it got sold, it got into different circulations. Like private people bought it, collectors, museums, and with it, it became visible in other levels, like newspapers and whatnot. And so that gave another swing that invited me to do a solo show at my gallery in Amsterdam, at Upstream Gallery, and it had the same effect. So it became very visible in a couple of different levels in a very short time. And which was very interesting, you know, for like a lot of people could relate to it in other levels for some reason. So that was really spectacular, different than like the Berlin project, for example, or the 100 kilometer thing.
Yeah.
That was like a kind of an anti-shape, and this was like, it was about concentration, but it was just squeezed in another language that was relatable, let's say.
Exactly, the vocabulary is different in that sense. Yeah, the artistic vocabulary.
Yeah.
What I'm not segueing because we spoke about it in the last one, but I wanted to know, what do you think about the art world nowadays? It was very sassy last time, so.
I don't know. It's you know, I don't have like one opinion about the art world. I have, as I said, I have two galleries. I have like my work is shown in different contexts, and in the end, I'm just interested in making new work. You know, like, and showing new work, and I don't mind in which contexts really. You know, it's always challenging. It's super fascinating to show work at an art fair, because it's such a different dynamics than if I show my work straight from my studio in the project space of our studio building to friends and colleagues, you know, or when I'm invited to do something, you know, it's really different, you know. Like what I think is cool about the art world is that you can define it in the way that you want it to be, you know. Like in my case, like what I really love about art is that if you want to make a film, you just make a film. If you want to write a book, you just write a book. You don't need to be a good writer. You don't need to be a good filmmaker. You just need to be super committed. And then you squeeze, if you have a good idea, you squeeze it into a form that is relevant in the realm of art, you know. And like with the running stuff, it's the same, you know. I'm not a good runner. I'm slow runner. I don't do spectacular distances compared to the majority of the ultra running community, but it's in the bandwidth of the arts that I'm interested in. It fits. And if I tomorrow decide to make shoes, I will find a way how it is finding its audience in the landscape and in the language of art. I think that's fantastic. And how to get your money out of that system, that's another discussion. And the same, everybody needs to find its own way, either through making work that is focused on private collectors, through the bubble of galleries and art fairs, or you focus on the bubble of subsidies or private sponsoring or whatever, or you marry your way in through a rich partner or whatever. You know, there's a million ways that I think that's really fascinating about art, you know. And you don't need like big podia. You can just make your own little booklet and distribute it as fanzines and create your own language with it. It depends really on your own ambition in that field. So
as long as it's being created,
it needs to be created, and it needs to find its audience. If it's not finding an audience, it's amateurism, it's hobbyism. And so it needs to find its audience. That is the key. But what audience and how you find it, that's up to us artists ourselves, you know. And that's with every production. If it's like in theater, everything we make, if it's finding an audience, then it becomes relevant. Then it becomes part of the bigger sphere of language that we can exchange the culture of imagery and reflections on it, etc. You know, and like running, people are running for tens of thousands of years, and I'm like and I'm not the only one with a couple of people now squeezing it into that it's part of a discipline, let's say, you know, the part of like performance art, interventions in public space, or maybe documentation of performance art, whatever how you want to, but it's part of a language. And that's important. And you know, like, I think art is fantastic, you know, and the art world is generous enough for me to find an audience. That's it, you know. And so I'm pretty positive about that, you know. Like, of course, like, you know, like the highs and lows of the art market, it's another story. But you know, that's for everyone. That's not only in the arts so unique. And I think like since COVID, what made it really clear for me also, everybody was in serious shit when they couldn't work anymore and they didn't get money, etc. The only people that really felt like fish in the water were artists, because they're always in that state of economic
in uncertainty,
rock bottom. So we're flexible people, and like in the West where there's a lot of money around and stability and whatnot, like the 2015 thing, running to Berlin and then thinking about people escaping from misery places, from Syria and other places. It's the same thing. It's super relative, and I'm positive.
So what do you have there? You brought with you.
I took this thing. So this is called the first Rotterdam sculpture run.
Can you show it to the camera?
The first Rotterdam. I'll take it out of the bag.
Here, this one.
So it's the first Rotterdam sculpture run. When we had this first talk, like a couple of months ago, I was. It's like half a year ago, so I was in the preparation of it, and I was invited by the City of Rotterdam or the Sculpture International and the CBK. They're responsible for taking care of sculptures in public space, and they asked me if I wanted to do a parcours, like a running route.
Oh, wow, look at this! This is a map.
Yeah, it's a gigantic map, and it's a part of Rotterdam. It's the south side mostly, the south of the river, and it's connecting a couple of art sculptures that I chose. And when they invited me, I made a route, and it was about 65 kilometers. And I realized it's not a lot of people that are able to run that. And it needed to be a public event, so I trimmed it down to 30 kilometers, I said. It's a little bit further, it's like 38 in total. And I invited people to run it with me. So, and to be able to run it, people had this map, and also they got this card with it. And
so cool, man! I want to.
It was designed by.
I'm also a runner, so I like to.
Yeah, the thing is, I'm preparing now a second Rotterdam sculpture run. So it's going to be the north side of the city, and so that's going to be after the Rotterdam Marathon, which is going to be half April. So it's going to be probably the first weekend of May or the second weekend of May. And the thing is, what I did is, like, friends of mine from 75B, graphic designers, they did this thing with me. I took photographs of the sculptures. They made the silhouettes, and then you run with this around your neck. With that
can I have this for a moment?
map, and then you had to run along the route, and then at certain points, people were ready with a stamp, and then if you had the proper stamps, it turned out like this, like, so here you can see like some of the sculptures
cool.
actually revealed themselves. Exactly. So while running, instead of getting a medal in the end, you run your own multiple. So, and at the finishing line, I was there at my studio building, which was the starting and the finishing.
So cool.
And then I would number it and sign it. So if you were a runner, the maximum runners were 40 now again, because or else it becomes a mass event, and then you need permission, etc. So it's now in this case there were like 30 runners, and so and then they entered. So the first runner got number 1 of 30, and then the second, etc. So. Yeah, you gathered your own multiple art piece.
Wow!
So that was
what
really
a great concept of actually combining these languages that you acquired, the running, the art.
Yeah, and the multiple thing also is it's kind of Fluxus thing that you play with the value of art. Yeah, and it's not the best print, so we're gonna do a better print this time. Yeah.
I just saw that you're like full of.
Yeah.
So you're saying like first week of May?
The first week of May. It's gonna be the 2nd of May, the 3rd of May, I think.
Could I join?
Yeah, please. Yeah, of course. If you're fit enough.
That would be so cool if you'll actually document this.
We're gonna do. It's going to be 30K because most of the people can run for 1 hour. 10 kilometers everybody can run. But I wanted to also make a hard cut between sport and art. Most of the artists, they're like, we like beer, we like to smoke, we like to hang out, and not so many people are sportive. and they're more brain people. And I thought it's great to have this combination together. And so when you make a tour for 30 kilometers, you need to train. It's a serious thing, you know.
Yeah.
So it's only people that already are sporting and by coincidence also interested in art. Yeah, then that becomes a smaller group, a thinner group. So I like this idea. So
I would love to join.
yeah, cool, please. Yeah, join. And everybody else, you know. So the second Rotterdam sculpture run, it's going to call it, and then maybe we find another way to do the first London sculpture run or Berlin.
What about
or
Amsterdam?
whatever. Amsterdam, yeah, but I need to be invited because it costs money. So to print the thing, to organize the thing, not a lot, but it's like the printing. You know, everybody gets a multiple. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So and you start and then you finish at a certain time, at a certain place. Like this one started at my own studio building. And finish there. We have a big garden there. So the first runners stay and hang out. We have a little lunch there and some soup and some drinks. And then every time the other runners come, you get more audience. And in the end, when the last runner arrives, it's a spectacle. You know, people are happy and celebrating the arrival of the diehards. And that's also a marvelous energy that you don't normally see so much in art. You know, on openings or something, when there's a performance, people applaud. But in this case, people are really celebrating the hard effort of the last guy that managed to put his teeth in it, and you know, and celebrating it. It was really, it's a real special event for that, you know. So check it out.
Yeah, check it out. Of course, Jeroen Jongeleen. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, man. It was
been
a pleasure.
Yeah.
Again.
Don't
lose the material. Don't bring it on holidays on the beach. Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. It was really cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. And we're going to do another edition. And I was just telling you, Joao, like, if I'm coming, I want you to document me die while I do this. I mean, I'm fit, but I never run. The most I ran was 20.
Yeah, then 30 is okay.
Yeah, the most I ran was 20, and I did it for a while. So it's
told, like here, it's on the outside also, it's like 32 kilometers. It's not 32 kilometers, but it was like a
56.
No, at 38 it was.
38. Okay, so it's a mental thing of like...
Yeah, and then at 30, everybody is destroyed, and at 32, they're watching the clock. It's like, yeah, but it's 32. And then 33, they start to hate me. And at 34, it's getting worse and worse. And by the time that they arrive at 38, people are euphoric that they arrived and managed to do that. And they hugged me and everything. It's like, wow, this is... Only in sports you have that.
Yeah.
Not in art. I'm not hugged for showing a sculpture normally, you know, or making a painting. Oh, I love you. It's so beautiful. No, it's like, all right, okay. You know. So, yeah.
It's kind of the opposite sometimes with the art world. They're more like... Why is he being presented and not me?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's a little bit of that.
Yeah, but that's different also with the sports things, you know, because when endurance is involved and you know the psychology is visible, kind of, you know, then I don't think people think that so much. Of course, if I used to do a lot of stuff like street art related graffiti things that people start to copy things or whatever. Right. So then there's a lot, but with this kind of running stuff, people tried it, you know, like to run also like some distances and stuff. And then after half an hour, they're like, oh yeah, I got pain. Oh shit. It looks so easy. But once you do it,
you need to plan. It's like you can't
just
give everything.
And you know.
Yeah.
But that's the fun. It's anyway, you know. Also with painting, you know, if you see a good painting, you think, I'm gonna do the same. But it's years of practice to do to be skilled in certain language or a certain dialect, you know.
Absolutely.
And so, and in the case of running or adding physicality to your practice, it's like, you know, of course, and you know, with the talks here with dancers, it's obvious, you know. But in art, it's not so common for people to be aware of the effort that it takes to make work. And this is also kind of part of an element of how I got into running. I used to work for museums and then hanging up paintings, and then you see the life of the painting on the backside, and then you realize like, damn, or reading a book on holidays that you're not aware, like you read it in a weekend, and that someone was struggling for 10 years to make that book.
Yeah.
And you just read it, okay, great story, bam, next one, you know. And I really love to make work that, at least in the running part, that it was about that it was obvious that it took an effort, and that you just show the effort really, you know. And so, come do the effort with me.
Yeah, please, Jeroen. Thank you so much again for doing it. We're gonna for sure have a second edition, like I said. And thank you, Joao, also, our producer. And everybody, thank you so much for joining us here in Into the Score. You know what you need to do: like, subscribe, follow us, do the whole thing. We're growing as it is. And we will see you at the gallery or the running track.
Yes, please.